Hello there, I'm Helen, Mrs. T, and if you're someone who is unhappy in their job or considering a job or career change, then my October book choice, Designing Your Work Life, How to Thrive and Change and Find Happiness at Work by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans, this book is for you. And so in today's session, I'm going to go through what I feel are the key learning points from this book and give you a real flavour of it. But as always, I would really recommend you actually getting the book and reading it, because obviously you'll get the maximum benefit out of it in that case. But what I would also say is that there's an excellent podcast, the Squiggly Careers podcast, which is one that I've mentioned before on my account. It was my first podcast choice, and they did an interview with the authors, Bill Burnett and Dave Evans, and it's a really good overview. So if you want to take a look at that podcast, you can find the link to that on amazingif.com, which is the Squiggly Careers website. And so just a little bit about why I've chosen this book. Those of you who know me will know that until recently I was a head teacher, and about 9 months ago I left my job as a head teacher and I retrained and became a coach. And that process of change for me, finding my new direction, was very much guided by this book. So this book helped me to really identify the kind of direction I wanted to take and to really make sure that I wanted to take that step. So I'm speaking from experience of having used this book myself, but also having recommended it to several of my clients who've gone off and looked at it and found it really useful for themselves too. So tried and tested, it's a good one. And the thing about Bill Burnett and Dave Evans is they are coming from a designer background, and what they're doing with this book is bringing elements of the design mindset into career change. And I'll just go through what those 6 mindsets are. So the first one is be curious. The second one is try stuff. The third one is reframe problems. Then know it's a process. And I love this. There's the idea of when it's the right time to flare out and explore all the options, and when it's the time to focus in on one thing and really narrow down on that. The 5th one is asking for help, and the 6th one is telling your story. So they're bringing that design mindset to the whole area of designing your work life. And very importantly, they encourage you to start from where you are. So build forward from exactly where you are at this point in time and try and take small steps forward. And it's encouraging quite a cautious approach to things, which I think is really sound. And they're looking at the idea of, one of the chapters is actually called Don't Resign, Redesign, which I think is really a nice little catchphrase, because if you're in a job and you're thinking of a change, then really go through that whole process of being sure that it's really the right thing for you to do, to leave your job. So building forward from where you are. And one of the things that they are really good at in this book is reframing. So often in the coaching world, we talk about self-limiting beliefs, and they are beliefs that kind of hold us back, stop us from doing the things we really want to do. But in this book, they call them dysfunctional beliefs, and they give you lots of examples of them and lots of reframes. So I just want to share with you one of the examples. And that is the dysfunctional belief that they are talking about is, to have a good work life, I need to go for it and really shoot for the moon. So the reframe is, the secret to good enough for now is to have a bias to action, but set the bar low, clear it, then do it again and again. So what they're saying is, great to be ambitious, go for it, but try and have a small steps approach so that you really have an achievable first step that you can do, feel great about, and then move on from there. So that's one example of how they've taken something that doesn't really work as a dysfunctional belief and reframed it. And so what they're really doing is encouraging you to unpick the negative thoughts and feelings that you might be having about your job, and try and find out what's behind those things and get it down to what they call the minimal actionable problem, the MAP. So they're a really good expression of a problem that you can do something with, and you can find a really doable action that you can try. And so that's what it's all about. It's about identifying things that are practical, things that you can try out and see if they work. And so it's all about what works for you in terms of a job, in terms of your work life. And one of the things, there's lots of good exercises in here, but one of the really great exercises is called the Make a Mix. And so I'll just give you a quick look at the picture that goes with this. So basically you've got 3 things here, and if you imagine like a sound mixing board where you've got these sliders, and you've got 3 of them, and the 3 are money, impact and expression. So it's considering that in your life, for you, what is the most important thing or things? How important is money to you? How important is it that you earn loads of money from your job? Or is it not very important at all, and really all you need is to just cover your costs? So that's one thing. The next one is impact. Are you really trying to change the world in your job? Is that important to you? Do you want to have a really big impact in the work that you do? Do you want to come home every evening and think, yeah, I really made a difference to people's lives? If that's important to you, recognise it. And the third one is expression. So how important is it to you to be creative in your job, in your work life? So those 3 sliders, you can do that in 2 ways. You can do it in terms of your ideal, what you really, really want, and then you can do it in terms of the job that you're currently doing and kind of compare them, and then look at that and problem solve a little bit and think, well, how can I get more of that into my life at the moment? They give a really nice example in here of someone who loves poetry, but who tells himself, well, I can't become a poet because poets don't make any money, so I've got to forget that. And actually what they advise that person is to think, right, well, maybe what you can do is just do a job to bring you some money in, and maybe get it down to the minimum number of hours in a week that you can do to get the amount of money you need. And then in that spare time, go off and write your poetry and explore those options. So really good ideas around making your work life fit your ideals, what you really want, what your values are. Okay, so how your job works for you is really fundamental in this book. And one of the other things that they talk about is in terms of motivation, they bring in, again, 3 parts, but a bit of a 3-part model in terms of motivation: autonomy, relatedness, and competence. So in terms of our motivation to do any job, those 3 elements are at play. So how much autonomy do we have? How much choice do we have about the work that we do? In terms of relatedness, how well do we get on with the other people we work with? And competent, how competent are we? How good do we feel at our jobs? And so if you're a bit demotivated in your job, what are the areas in there that are causing you the problem? And can you narrow that down to a problem that you can take some action on, try something out, have a conversation with somebody about, and see if you can make some small changes that just lead to greater happiness and fulfillment in your day-to-day work. And that's really kind of what they're talking about with the whole don't resign, redesign thing. The other thing that's great in here is there's a chapter all about quitting well, which I think is really useful. It's not talked about enough, but really when we leave a job, it's so important that we don't burn our bridges and we really build forward from that job, you know, into our next direction, making sure we have a good network and making sure that we're carrying our skills forward with us. And they talk about leaving the campsite better than you found it, and I think that's a really great motto for anyone who's about to leave their job. So some really sound advice about that. So what I would say is it is quite difficult to do this reframing. If you can do it, it's great. If you're struggling with that, what I would say is coaching is a really good solution to that, and coaching can really help. I'm a coach, and I'd love to help anyone who's struggling with their kind of career decisions and help you to find those reframes and solutions that you can really move forward with, solutions that work for you. So I do have a career coaching package which you can check out on my website, which is mrstcoaching.com. If you've got some questions about it, or you'd like to, give me a query, then you can DM me or you can email me at mrstcoaching@gmail.com. And what I would really recommend is that if you're thinking about maybe having some coaching but you're not sure, then you can book directly into my calendar for a complimentary consultation chat. And that's just like a little half-hour session where we can talk about coaching, talk about what you're wanting to get out of it, and then you can make the decision whether you want to proceed or not. And the link to that is in my bio. There's a little link there to my link tree, so you can book that through there. And I do discounts for people who work in the public sector and charity sector, so do let me know if that's you. So I hope that this has been useful to you. I hope that you've found some things in there that will help you in terms of your work life and finding happiness in your work life. Thank you for listening, and I've been Mrs. T. Nice to talk to you today.